Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen.
So when they couldn't find how to bring him in because of the crowd, they went up on the housetop and lowered him with his bed. And then it says later that God lifted their faith. And I think between those two verses, there is a very important spiritual concept. And hopefully, God willing, we'll try to wrap our mind around it today. So the men lowered from the housetop reminds you of the scene of Mission Impossible, when Tom Cruise was lowered from the roof. So if you think about it, those 4 people were on a mission. They were saying, we will do whatever it takes to put this man in front of Jesus. And God really appreciated this. So we want to think today, what did God see in those 4 men? They asked a monk, his name is Saint Seraphim, from a city called Saruf. They asked him in the 19th century, and they asked him, what is the problem with the youth in this age? What is the problem with the youth in this age? And he said the problem with the youth in this age is convenience. The problem with the youth in this age is convenience. This was St. Seraphim Sarovsky in the 19th century. He departed in the 1800s. So now in 2014, life has become more convenient than any time else. Life has become very easy. You see, car companies are fighting to make more convenient cars. Houses are becoming more convenient than ever before. You have the whole world in your palm. There's an application for everything. You just add water and you have an instant meal. Life has become very easy, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but this has caused a lot of damage in our willpower and the way we're pursuing our careers and the way we have commitment in our relationship, and more importantly, we started to think that the way to the kingdom of heaven is very easy and full of flowers and it's very easy. But the gospel says that from the days of John the Baptist till now, the kingdom of heaven is taken by violence, and the violence take it by force. So we all want to have good relationship with God. We all want to read the Bible every day and learn new concepts from the Bible. We all want to go to the kingdom of heaven eventually, but we all want it within our convenience. We don't want to get out of our comfort zone to get there. So we all find it difficult to wake up early in the morning on Sunday, right? But we just wake up because our parents ask us to wake up early. We know that Saturday when you work really hard and you have a project to work on till like 1 a.m. in the morning, and then still wake up early, God looks at this Sunday different than any other Sunday. Like any one of us, like Michael prays every day before he goes to bed. But you know what? This day when he was out the whole day and he was really tired at the end of the day, but he said, yes, I'm tired, but I'll get out of my comfort zone. I'll take from my rest and stand up and talk to Jesus a little bit. So God likes every day he prayed before he went to sleep, but this day is different for God, because God works at this day differently. God really appreciates it when you get out of your comfort zone for him. Right? So working our willpower is very important for our spiritual life and for our life in general. I told this story already to the middle school youth, but I think it's worth repeating. In the year 1972, there was a guy, his name is Walter Mitchell in Stanford University, and he did a study on a lot of kids. He brought them one by one in a room and gave each one of them a piece of marshmallow. And he said, you know what, you have this piece of marshmallow, you have one of two options right now. You either eat the marshmallow right now, or wait 15 minutes. Try to fight and push through for 15 minutes. If you wait for 15 minutes, you get 2 pieces of marshmallow and you can enjoy them as much as you want. And then he found that only 1/3 of the kids were able to wait for 15 minutes. So he said only 1/3 of the kids are able to delay gratification and work their willpower. And this study was over. But the interesting thing is in 1988, those kids were 6 years old. 1988, those kids are now 22 years old. he went back and he did a follow-up study. And he looked at the 1/3 of the kids who were able to push through. He looked at what happened when those kids were able to work their willpower. And the results were mind-blowing. And this study, by the way, was repeated on 6,000 kids later on after he got the results. And every time the study was repeated, it comes with the same results. He found that those kids had more than 440 points higher in SAT scores. He found that those kids were able to go to better jobs, pursue better careers, get promoted in their jobs, have more stable relationship with their partners, and more popular among their peers. Just those 15 minutes of pushing through. And then there were a couple of other studies that were done in Case Western. I'm not going to take all of the time for the studies, but they found that the willpower is something like a muscle, that you can work it and get it stronger. So one day they found Abu Mu'ar at night lifting sands, like lifting bags of sand from behind his cell to the front of his cell. And then he moved it back to where it was earlier. So they asked him, what are you doing? I mean, what's the point? You're taking the sand from behind the cell and you're putting it in the front of the cell, and then you're bringing it back. He said, I am exhausting my body so it doesn't bother me, right? If I don't have this willpower, my body would not listen to me, right? So it's important that you take the lead, because otherwise your body will take the lead, right? And then there was another study that was called the willpower spillover. So what they did is they saw if you work on your willpower in one domain of your life, like they brought some people and they worked on their willpower on watching less TV. Well, after they trained them in watching less TV, they found that after they're good at this, they became better at managing their money, they became better at giving up all the other bad habits they had. So you see it once and more, that when one of the high school or middle school kids decide to have a serious relationship with God, so you see that this kid, within a few months, not only his spiritual life is getting better, but also his social life, he started to become more popular among his friends. So working out your willpower is very fruitful and it's worth it. And you know what? God really appreciates it. God appreciates it when you give anything from them, and only God knows how tired you were when you were standing to pray, and only God knows how exhausted you were when you were waking up Sundays for Sunday school in the morning. So let's look at this verse in Proverbs 24:16. It says that the righteous man falls 7 times. I thought it's the righteous man falls 7 times. It says the righteous man falls 7 times every day. I mean, what is it about falling 7 times that makes you righteous? I mean, it's just falling 7 times every day and you're still righteous. You know why? Because he rises again. Because God knows how hard it is to rise again. When you go buy a new car, they tell you that when you go ask about the full consumption for the car, they tell you that there are 2 numbers. There's probably like 37 and 15. And you say, what's the difference between the 37 and 15? He said 37 is the mile per gallon, like how many miles the car will work for a gallon of gas. And he said the 37 is when the car is moving very fast on the highway. And 17 is when the car is moving in the city. Stops and then starts again, stops and then starts again, right? When the car is moving very, very slow and stops often, it's very taxing on the engine. I find the engine is like running very, very loud. You're running your 8 cylinders, you're filling them with all the gas, right? When you're on the highway, just running like 2 cylinders, filling them with air, you're good to go. But when you stop and rise, fall and rise, it's very exhausting. And God knows that. God knows that it takes a lot of willpower to rise again. And the heaven rejoices with one repentant because he rises. More than 99 righteous who don't need repentance. There's a very nice way of exercise, working out. It's called HIIT or SIT. It's high intense interval training or sprint interval training. You can look it up when you go. And what it is it says instead of working out at like speed of 5 on your treadmill, you work at speed of 5 for 2 minutes and then you drop your speed for 3 minutes. and then you come back for 2 minutes, 2 and 3, 2 and 3. You find when you do this, this was studied, and they can measure the CO2 coming out of people who are working out and how much fat they're burning. When you do this for 2.5 hours, it's as if you're working the same speed for 10.5 hours. Okay, so rising and falling is very taxing. And you know what? God really appreciates this. God really appreciates it when you work hard for it. And God knows how hard it is to stand again. And this is the idea behind the righteous man who falls 7 times a day. When I leave you with the final thought, and I think it summarizes this whole idea. I was talking to one of my servants a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about how it is hard to sometimes you stand for prayer and you don't feel discomfort, and you don't feel that you're getting the same comfort that you got once before. And he said, you know what, Mike? When you stand and you push through for this prayer, even though you're not feeling anything, you know what you're showing God? You're showing God that you're loyal to Him. You're showing God your loyalty. You're showing God you're faithful to Him. Even though you're not feeling anything, you still are pushing through. And you know what? God appreciates this stand. God knows that you're standing and you're not getting anything, but God will visit you and show you one day the same feeling again. You know what? Sometimes we feel, what is the point of me standing for prayer if I'm already tired and exhausted? What is the point of me standing if I don't understand every word I'm saying? Maybe I should wait until I'm in a good state of mind and then start to pray. Maybe I should wait until I'm in the mood and then start to read the Bible. Maybe this way I'll get more benefit. No. You know what? For 2 reasons. One thing is because when you have this good state of mind, chances are you're going to get distracted and you're not going to stand for prayer, right? So all the monks in the desert, they all had a spiritual law. All had certain number of metanias, all had certain numbers of prayers that they would do no matter what. Convenient, not convenient, in your comfort zone, out of your comfort zone, you will do it no matter what. This is one thing. But the other thing that's more important is that you're showing God that you're loyal. You're showing God that you're giving out of your need. It's this Sunday when you woke up very early after staying Saturday to the middle of the night. God looks at this Sunday differently because God knows that you're taken out of your need, taken out of your rest. It's like the woman who gave the 2 coins. God looked at her differently because she took out of her need. So, one final thing. How God looks at you. The same idea of the car when it's running at a very low speed but running over the engine. God is not looking at the speed. God is listening to the engine. He's seeing how much you're running your cylinders, how much you're pushing through, and God appreciates that. So here's the thing. Believe it or not, even you yourself should not be looking at the speed. All your responsibility is to run all your cylinders. Our responsibility is not to look at our speed. And more importantly, that to make this sermon orthodox, we have to know that all our willpower is not enough for us to get the grace of God, right? So the pushing through and being determined in our spiritual life is all important. But none of this by itself will take us to heaven. And the only thing that will take us to heaven is the grace of God. The same idea of farming the land. So the farmer will prepare the land, will create the channels, will put the seed, and then we'll wait and watch. Waiting by itself and watching and putting the seeds does not give life to the plants. But when God brings the water and gives life, then you have the fruits. So the same idea in our Orthodox life. It's very important to have willpower. It's very important to push through. But you have to know that none of this is important. And you have to know that you're not relying on your willpower. 2 things that make you know that you're not relying on your willpower. The first thing is when you fall, if you are very frustrated and you're crying and get all those exaggerated bad feeling, chances are 99% of the time you are relying on your willpower. 99% of the time what makes you sad is the bruise that you have in your self-esteem. How did I fall this bad? How did I not push enough? It's not because you made God who died for you disappointed. It's just because you're feeling your self-esteem. But if you know that you're just doing the best you can, but you're not asked for results, you will not have this guilt. And the other thing is you never lose hope, because you know that the results are not yours. You can fail 7 times a day. The results are not yours. All you need is to just push hard as much as you can. So I will leave you with the thought of having loyalty to God. It's such you're standing up to show God that you're loyal. You know, God, I really want this relationship. I really want to get closer to you. I'm taken out of my need right now just to get closer to you. I really appreciate this relationship, and I want this, and I want to get closer to you, and I want to get to the gospel. I want to get closer to the Bible, and I want to learn more from the Bible. Even though I'm tired, even though I don't understand what I'm saying, even though I don't understand what I'm reading, but I'm pushing through because I want this relationship to happen, and I want to get closer to you. And glory be to God forever, amen.